one of the aspects that I wanted to especially talk about is all the current Macs ship with USB-C jack. And I wanted to talk about what you can do with that. And actually, when I do an image search right now for USB-C MacBook Pro, look what I get. I get a lot of results that have these things hanging off the side of the computer. What is that? So some companies call them docks, some call them hubs. And the point of them is that, as I said, the latest Macs only have USB-C. So here's an example of the side of a Mac that only has USB-C jacks, which is a new, smaller USB. So for point of comparison, on the right is old style USB called USB-A that you have used for years, and on the left that's USB-C, and you can see how it's quite a bit different in size.
Closer to a lightning connector.
It's a lot closer to a lightning connector. The lightning connectors, however, have the contact pins on the outside exposed. USB-C, it's on the inside. So the benefit is that it's very small. Apple may eventually convert the phones. They probably will, no guarantee, but they'll probably convert the phones eventually to, and the iPad.
They're gonna have to.
Yeah, to USB-C.
Well, isn't Europe saying you have to?
Yeah, did they pass that?
I don't know.
They aren't there yet, but they're close.
Right.
Yeah,
Right.
so Europe has, for years now, had legislation that if you ship a phone in one of our countries, you have to have a USB-C micro or mini, I don't remember which.
A universal connector, and that's what they decided to.
And Apple's answer to that is, oh, we'll just throw an adapter in the box. That's their workaround. And the next thing the EU is supposedly going to do is say that the required connector is USB-C. So all the current Macs ship with USB-C. Now the desktop Macs, Mac Mini and the iMac, I'm not sure about the Mac Pro Tower, but who cares, because nobody here is going to buy a $6,000 Mac Pro Tower. As far as the iMac goes and the Mac Mini, they still have the original USB-A on them. They have, the iMac has 4 USB-As, the Mac Mini has 2. And USB-C. But then they both have USB-C. The Mac Mini, interestingly, considering the fact that the iMac costs more, the iMac only has 2 of these guys, the Mac Mini has 4. But this, it's not just a connector. It's called USB-C, but it's not just limited to USB. And USB has historically been printers, hard drives, connect cameras, scanners. But with USB-C, you can do a whole heck of a lot more, especially with Macs, because it's also a Thunderbolt 3 interface. And Thunderbolt is a way faster means of data transfer than USB. USB 3 is there's no shame in that. There's transfer speeds, but so it's a multifunctional connector, and that's why adapters and hubs have become so common, because Apple has provided the protocols and the communication through this one connector to support a lot of types of communication to a chip in the adapter. This is a Lenovo USB-C hub / dock. Again, each companies have their own choice for what they call it. So it can support all these other connector types, which I'll go over, because of the fact that Apple design USB-C is designed to be able to send all sorts of traffic protocols over this connector. So now, just going back just a step, I said how the Mac Mini and the iMac have both the old school connector and the new one. The laptops, however, only have USB-C nowadays for the sake of space savings and Apple pushing for the future, just like they did when they removed the floppy drive in 1997. So the laptops only have that connector now. So even if you're trying to plug your iPhone into your brand new Mac laptop, right out of the box, you can't do it. Unless you happen to have handy a USB A to let, you probably got one handy quicker than a, did you bring
No,
the?
I didn't.
Oh yeah, right there, yeah. So Rick has a USB-C to USB-A adapter. These little things are sounding like crazy because of the fact that Apple, the laptops, only have that. And so many people have devices with that they want to use. Flash drives, external hard drives, cameras. So at a bare minimum, you need an adapter like this to get an old school device to connect. You could also get a different cable to go between your Mac and the device with the USB-C on one end of the cable and whatever that device calls for on the other end. There are cables
Such
that
as a
have,
lighting.
For instance, hard drive cables, the USB, to your hard drive.
yeah, like the USB, that wide, narrow,
Yes.
or narrow, short in height but wide connector USB 3 that's on a lot of external hard drives, which I got.
Don't lose the case, man.
I've got, you know what, it's on the back of the car, that one. But let's talk about some of the other, so, let me give you the back before I forget. Don't want it to get mixed up with mine. Oh, so here we go, I've actually got one right here. So, this is got USB-C on one end, and it has this type of USB 3 connector on it that's very common with portable, well, any hard drives right now, but especially the portable ones. So that would be another way that I could connect a hard drive that I have that has that connector to a Mac that has that connector, using a cable that actually has the respective fittings on it, instead of using an adapter.
The cable
Yeah.
is longer.
Yeah.
Functionally, any other difference?
It could potentially be better results and more reliable, more robust to have the right cable with the right connectors on it, not use an adapter.
Over an adapter?
Yeah, because adapters, you're just adding another another connection point that's down the road. It may work awesome initially, but down the road, connectors get oxidation and wear and tear. But
Another factor is how much power you're plugging in
Yeah.
requires.
yes,
Because the only way I could get my DVD drive, the Superdrive, on my Mac Pro, or MacBook Pro, was this cable. All of my hubs don't pass through enough power to drive the DVD drive. So the only way was a direct connect.
I figured you need
So,
more than 5
in this
volts.
scenario, so I mentioned a lot of what we're going to talk about is hubs and adapters, and as I mentioned before, this is Lenovo Hub so it connects to the computer with USB-C, and it has, going left to right, USB-C for the purposes of power, and I'll explain why in a second. That's an SD memory card slot. That's a USB-A port, another USB-A port. That's an HDMI monitor connection port. And then on the end, it has a wired Ethernet port as well. So as soon as I plug that into a Mac, all these ports become available to the Mac. Chuck, did I hear?
Passing power through this, right?
So it will pass a certain amount of power. So that's a good, so I mentioned it's got a USB-C connector on it. So the point of that is, thankfully, all the Mac laptops that are shipping now have 2 USB-C ports on them, at least. But for a while, we had the MacBook, just the MacBook, not anything else, not Air or anything like that, just called MacBook, 12-inch screen, that had one lowly USB-C port. And it is a pain in the butt when you're trying to do anything but charge, because that one port is also used for charging, because the chargers now connect via USB-C. So, but that was the blessing of an adapter like this, or a hub like this. You plug your charger into this so that it powers this, and then this device also sends the power through into your Mac through the USB-C. So then it gets your Mac, even if you have the MacBook with one port, this little breakout device gives you a whole bunch of flexibility, because it's now powering the computer, it's giving you Ethernet, it's giving you a memory card, giving you 2 USBs, and the ability to connect an external monitor. Yeah.
Traditionally, as I remember, if you had USB and you had a USB 3
Yeah.
and you had USB 2 connected to the same hub,
Yeah.
it would go to the slowest, it would reduce the speed
Yeah,
to the
there-
slowest. Is
that
that
was-
still a problem?
Nope.
All right, that's what
Yeah.
I'm asking. None of these faster connections are reduced now in their,
No.
all right.
Yeah.
But
That was an issue,
Yes.
a big issue at one point.
Yes.
But eventually they changed the hubs such that it hasn't been an issue for a while, thankfully. Jay?
No. I was just actually just scratching my head.
Chris, with that hub setup,
Yeah.
does the computer access each of those ports on a time-sharing basis, or are they all in parallel?
All simultaneous. But there's so much bandwidth through USB-C, it's not an issue. The only issue that I have had is that with that Lenovo one, when I have had a flash drive connected and an external hard drive connected at the same time, this darn thing that I want to get out of this box to show you guys won't come out of the box.
What are you looking for? What's the box?
I've had an issue where I go to unmount the flash drive or the hard drive, the other one becomes dismounted unsummarily without being because I didn't properly put it away. I didn't put it away because I didn't know it was gonna. So I don't know if that's a flaw in that Lenovo thing or what, but it's not. I don't believe it's a bandwidth issue, because USB-C has a ton of bandwidth. You know what? Maybe I'm supposed to do this. So, oh, Chuck.
What about the MacBook with the single port? I've seen an adapter that's basically another dongle, where one side would be for power and the other for data.
Yeah.
I was reluctant, I mean, I don't have USB-C devices yet, but
Yeah.
that's a little pretty neat. to work
Yeah.
around.
Chuck.
You drop things.
Yeah, do you know what the interspeed on that is? Okay.
So yeah, I'll bring up the speeds on the screen. I don't remember. I think it's 5 gigabits per second is USB 3, and USB-C is / Thunderbolt 3 is even more. So I just wanted to show you another flavor of dock. This is Anchor brand. So same scenario, USB-C connector, and it has a USB-C connector to send power through to the computer, and then a SD card reader, HDMI port, Ethernet network port, and on the other side, 2 USBs of the old.
What's the throughput power rating for that? Because that is actually that actually is a consideration.
Yeah, well, it says it even supports fast charging, so it'll put through a lot of amps. It doesn't say right on this, but if you look up Anchor, this is the 7.1 USB-C PD, which stands for Power Delivery, Ethernet hub, called Power Expand Plus. But these, so you're probably wondering, okay, so what's one of these things cost?
Exactly.
So the prices are all over the place, and it depends on how many ports you get. There are some of these, so I've got 4 different anchor boxes here that are different flavors of adapter. And each one has a different myriad of ports. And the reason I have these is when I get it to a situation where somebody says, oh, I don't need Ethernet, I just want to read my SD memory card or what have you.
Hold up. Yeah, there you go.
Man, Anchor. Packaged it well. So this one's smaller, for example. This is a good choice to show you. This one's only got 2 USBs and power input and a card reader. So for somebody that all they want is a card reader and to connect up their external hard drive to do Time Machine, that's a perfect solution. This is like $40. And if maybe even 35. And the Lenovo one that I showed you that has Ethernet and HDMI and stuff, I think that one's like 60.
By the way, when you, the plus,
Yeah, Power Expand Plus.
they can only support 48-watt charge for the MacBook.
Yeah. So a MacBook Air charger, what's that, 60 watts
Yeah.
probably?
Yeah.
The MacBook Pro is 97 watts, right?
No, 80.
85 or something.
85?
Something like that.
Yeah.
80 or 85.
84. The new MacBook 16-inch, that one's 97.
Okay, that's the 97 I was thinking of. There's a new wave of chargers that's going to be coming out, by the way, that's even smaller, putting out lots of power for with an even smaller footprint. Just talking about chargers for a second, and that's because of a new type of component, gallium. What's it? Gallium arsenic, something like that. Arsenide. That they're able to produce more power in a smaller footprint. So you're going to see products on the market come along that say with GAN technology. I think they say it GAAN, and that's this new type of charger.
It's capital G, small a, capital A.
Okay. So now that gives you a feel for less expensive adapters. I'm just going to show you briefly some of the fancier hubs, the higher end ones. For example, the folks at OWC have one that's more of a professional grade one, if you will. It's got 10 ports on it, and there's a breakdown right there of everything that it's got.
It's got its own power supply too.
Yeah, and it has an external power supply. Yep, that plugs into the wall. And so that's something that I've set up some people with. That's a really good one for like media professionals. That's a really good thing.
I have one here, if you wanna show it. I have-
Yeah,
Well, mine
awesome.
is an older one, because I'm still, I bought this one because it has, believe it or not, it has 2 Thunderbolt ports, 5 USB 3s, a FireWire 800, HDMI and 4K gigabit Ethernet, mic line in and audio line out. And I use this with my iMac, and it's got, I mean, I like it. It's, oh, it does have you do have to power it from the wall.
Yeah.
It has all these, and that's an earlier one. You know,
Yeah.
I got that on sale. I don't know if they were phasing them out or not, but
So the device is powered by its own power supply that plugs in there. It connects to Macs that have an older connector, Thunderbolt, not the current USB-C, but that's still.
so I run my my iMac 2011 right to that,
Yeah,
and then I can plug in all kinds of peripherals.
yeah. It's got an Ethernet port, FireWire, which the newer generation doesn't have FireWire because Apple's retiring FireWire. This has got sound ports, which I don't think the new one even has sound ports. Headphone jack, microphone in, 3 USB-A ports. Yeah,
Three USB, 5 USB 3. Yeah, there's 2 on the front.
and Rick Richardson has here,
Oh, this is the little one. This is,
here he's
that's
got,
the one I take with me all the time.
oh yeah, so this is a lot like the pictures that I showed. This plugs right into the side of the laptop. You can see it uses 2 ports to connect. And so it's got HDMI on one end, which will let you hook up an external monitor. That's the kind of situation that I'm doing here with to feed this projector. And it's got 2 USB-C ports, card reader,
2 of them with a little mini.
yeah, mini SD reader and a regular full-size SD reader. 2 USB-A ports, standard USB ports,
And a light that tells you it's on.
that it's on.
Which is crucial because you can, it will pull out.
This is Hyperdrive Duo Hub for USB-C. Let's pull that up. Come on. Hypershop. That's who makes that. Yeah, cool. And then the other one Rick has, this is from J5 Create.
And it has its own cable on it. That's what you're gonna open up there. And you pull that out to
Ah.
whatever length you need based on what you require, and then that slides back in and folds up.
Nice.
So that you can put your computer on top of that and have it
Yep,
give you an angled deal.
yep. And then come over the side of the
That's a really nice one.
computer, yeah.
And then
J5 Create is the brand.
J5 does a whole bunch of
There's all kinds of stuff.
electronics, yeah.
And it says it's called the USB-C Triple Display Docking Station from J5 Create. So all the ports are on the back. So we've got microphone and speaker, it says both. VGA monitor output, which is an old school monitor connector. HDMI monitor, DisplayPort monitor
With HDMI.
with HDMI, that's in either or, you can choose there. 3 USB-A, a USB 3, SD and micro SD card readers, Ethernet, and
Power.
USB-C power in. Yeah, cool. Yeah, the pedestal nature of it is handy. Nice.
What's the ballpark price of the 2?
Yeah, what's this one?
That one, I think, was like 45, 50.
Oh, wow,
I don't think
Pretty
it.
good price.
that seems like a deal. Cool.
I'll have to look at that. You have my other one somewhere.
Yes.
The other thing I liked about the Hyperdrive is it comes with its own leather case, so you can separate it from the unit when you pack it in your computer bag.
I still have something of yours, Rick?
The Hyperdrive. Oh, here.
Okay. All right, so let me pause for a moment and see. I'm sure there are questions, so let me pause and answer questions and assess where people want to go.
Chris,
Yeah,
I've got this hard drive, so what connector would best out of my options on this?
yeah. To connect to a new Mac that
Yeah.
has USB-C only.
Yep.
So this one, this has USB 3 with that same style connector that I showed earlier.
Right.
And it's got FireWire 800. USB 3 is a lot
Faster than FireWire?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yep. So you would want one of these, USB-C to USB,
Sweet.
I forget what they call it, USB 3 micro or mini, can't remember, yeah, boom. So that fits in there.
All right.
And that will be definitely faster
Got it.
than the
Right.
FireWire 800. And actually, I said we would talk about the speeds for a little bit. I know, I don't wanna make people's heads swim too much with numbers, but let's just look at, USB-C, USB
By the way,
3.
the Thunderbolt is fast enough that have an external, SSD, that's USB Thunderbolt 3.
Yeah.
It's as fast as the one, almost as fast as the one that's inside.
Mm.
I was wrong, it's $110.
I was gonna say.
Yeah, and more like.
Let me find a good article here on what, this does give a very basic breakdown of, this CNET list. Where is the list that was, here we go. So, USB 1 was what was on the first iMac. Thankfully, we quickly moved beyond USB-C to USB 2.0, which was way faster than 1.0. But there are still, for years, a lot of companies were still shipping mice and keyboards as USB-C, USB 1, because they could get the USB 1 chips for dirt cheap and sell you a mouse for $5 at Walmart. Pretty much mice and keyboards were the only thing that used USB 1 after the early days of USB. So USB 2, 400 megabits per second. So to put that into perspective, your internet connection at home, if you have a cable modem, you're maybe getting like 40 megabits per second. So that's only about 10 times faster than your internet connection. It's no slob, but it's not, compared to what we have now, it's not that speedy. And then next step was USB 3, which went bam from, with this is, this one is basically 0.480 of this. So it's less than a fifth. It's a tenth of the speed.
Less than a tenth, yeah.
And so the latest USB 3, 3.1, which absolutely must be the Type-C connector. You could get that 5 gigabits per second with the older style connectors for the 5 gig. But if you want to get the most speed out of USB, at 10 gigs a second, you have to have Type-C at both ends. And that's super fast. 10 gigs per second is very, very fast. The only thing that's faster is Apple's computers can do Thunderbolt 3 over this same connector with the right cable. And Thunderbolt 3 speed is 40 gigabits per second. So, kicks it up even further.
The previous table indicated the USB 3.1 Type 2 puts out 20 volts, so rather than 5 volts?
20 volts is possible, I think.
That's what it says right there.
It says 20 volts, yeah.
20 volts, which kind of.
I didn't realize it was higher voltage.
Because
Because for years, USB has always been 5 volts.
yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, they kicked it up.
Unless-
That's part of the, what's called USB PD, power delivery. So yeah, it can do, it says optionally up to 5 amps at either 12 volts or 20 volts. Yeah. So I said I would open the floor to questions. Let me get back to people, what people want to know. Have questions about what I've talked about so far. What would you like to know about next? Yeah.
I just received a miniature projector that has, Bluetooth capability.
Yeah.
It's not like all I have to do is keep it simple and just pair it to my phone.
Usually something like that, when it has Bluetooth, it's so that you can do something like feed sound music from your phone into the projector, if the projector has a speaker in it.
Okay,
That's usually what that's for.
all right.
Yeah. It's not for something to go from the projector. Because the projector doesn't have any content in it usually, unless it's a smart projector, but I don't think.
From the phone to the projector.
Yeah, yeah. Does it have speakers built into it? The projector?
I just received it, so I just looked at all the cables, and just,
Yeah,
I just put it away once I saw some of that stuff.
yeah. Him bringing up projectors brings up something that I've been excited about recently that I do a little sidebar here for a second. Short throw projectors are something that have been on the scene for a while now, but they're really coming into their own and the prices are coming down. And short throw projectors that do 1080 are now under 2,000. I think they may be even cheaper, but this one has made big news, this Altoma Cinema XP1. It's a 4K projector, short throw, for less than $5,000, which was unheard of before. So what is a short throw projector? A short throw projector lets you do this, which is that image on the wall is being projected by the projector right there on that cabinet.
Corrects for the keystone?
Yeah, yep, it automatically does. So there's been short throw projectors on the market for a while, and initially it was short throw was like, okay, well, it has to be 3 or 4 feet away, and then like every generation it's like closer and closer. It's like, and it also depends on how big a screen you want to have. If you're gonna insist on putting it right up against the wall, you're only gonna be able to get a certain amount of screen area on your wall. The further back you move it, the more possibility you have for screen size. So it's a really cool thing. There's and they, from what I understand, I haven't set one up yet, but from what I understand, there's a lot less setup involved with these than with a traditional projector.
They also tend to when you aim them, you put it there, it'll
Self-adjust.
do self-adjust.
Yep. So that's really something cool. To get the ideal picture quality, you should have either a screen or paint a particular area of your wall with paint that's for screen use. There's paint that you can buy that you paint or roll onto a wall that has the nature that's recommended for a projector.
Must be
But-
reflective.
Yeah, that's not the ideal though. The paint's not the ideal with the short throw though, because of the fact that the light is coming from down here. The light just wants to bounce up there. So you're really supposed to buy a screen that's designed for short throw projector that takes the light that comes from this angle,
And
and
kills it.
instead of kicking it at where it wants to go naturally, it kicks it at your eye
Right.
at a 45-degree angle instead of a 90. But anyways, that's something cool that's out there.
How much are those?
Lots of money.
I saw a deal,
Oh, jeez.
it depends on, this is a 4K one. If you don't care about 4K, there are 1080p ones that are like around 1,000, I think. I'm pretty sure I saw a deal on an LG one that was 1080 for under 1,000 recently.
So it's called,
The brand is Optoma,
yeah, but generically, what would you search for?
short throw projector.
Short,
Throw.
Short throw projector. And see, no, that's not one.
Yeah, actually,
This
the
is
previous
one.
generation was 15,000 dollars.
Mm-hmm, yeah.
Well, no, that's on sale.
So it's just gonna keep coming down and down. You do, like I said, you do still have to allocate your wall to have a screen area. You can't just have any old wall. It's gotta be at least a white wall. So it's not practical for everybody. Oh, here's the LG one that I saw on sale recently. Looks like that. This is saying 1,800. I could have swore I saw it for a lot less than that for on sale, but I don't remember if that was Whoop where I saw it or what. Let's see what the Amazon price is. Oh, it says 4K. Oh, that's not the same one. LG's 4K one is 5,500. Anyways, I've gotten off on a sidebar too long here. So anyway, I just wanted to talk about that briefly. So questions or things people want to talk about next?
If anyone lives in West Hartford, there's a new company that's putting in fiber, and it's.
Go NetSpeed.
Go NetSpeed,
Yeah.
$50 a month.
And they, for some areas, they're already able to give you service. Other areas, if they're not servicing your area yet, you can try and petition your neighbors and get everybody to sign a thing saying they'd be willing to get the service, and they'll add backbone to your neighborhood. Go NetSpeed. Yeah, I have a client that's in the brand new, well, I don't know how new, it's newish, apartment building in Bloomfield called Heirloom Flats.
Yeah.
It's luxury apartments. And Frontier is offering fiber optic to your apartment in that building. And my client he's paying for 500 megabits per second, up and down. But he's only getting 200. Sometimes it tests at 200, sometimes it tests at 300. So he's been going around and around with Frontier trying to get them to give him the bandwidth that he's paying for. But he was also had me there because he wanted to make sure that his Wi-Fi wasn't the slowdown, that it was Frontier and not his Wi-Fi. So, but anyways,
Are they bringing fiber direct into the house?
yeah, there's a fiber line right into his closet in his apartment.
Before I moved from West Hartford, Frontier kept saying, oh, we're gonna bring fiber right to the house.
Yeah.
I didn't wanna hold my breath, cause I wouldn't turn more than
Yeah.
purple.
And I initially, when he told me that Frontier was offering that at that building, I said to him, well, I'm betting that's just fiber optic to the basement and the rest of the building is wired with Ethernet.
Yeah.
But no, when I went to his place, they installed a Nokia fiber optical data network
Wow.
modem in his closet. And there's a fiber optic line that goes right to it.
That's for business use, more or less, right, or in business class?
No, it's residents too,
Wow.
yeah.
So is that faster than regular cable?
Oh, yeah. Well, he's got 500 megabits.
Well, yeah.
So compare that to what you're getting from Cox.
I'm tempted
So-
to call them and see if they bring it into a condo complex.
Yeah. These guys might be an option for you too. Go NetSpeed. These
Yeah, I
these
see a
guys
lot
are
of-
fiber optic too.
I see a lot of cable companies very soon pulling cable and doing connections around here.
Yeah. That's typically backbone or corporations that are paying for something to be run on their behalf. I actually saw an interesting discussion recently where somebody said, "Oh, I saw these guys laying fiber optic at the end of my street," and I was like all excited. And I went to talk to them, and they said, "Oh, we're running it to that corporation that's moving into that building down there." And he says, "Well, can't you hook me up with it too?" And they said, "Nope."
Yep.
So he was bummed that they were running it right by his neighborhood, and he can't take advantage.
So what's the advantage? For whom
Speed.
is it meant?
Speed.
Uh,
If you'd like the best speed possible for your internet, that's what it's for.
because-
Yeah.
You've tripped into an interesting subject, and
Yeah.
that's, internet speed is all over the map.
Oh, yeah,
I mean, I've got so-called 100 megabit service,
right,
and sometimes it's 160, and sometimes it's 16.
yeah. Or when you do those tests, are you doing it over Wi-Fi, that speed test?
I do it both on Wi-Fi and also just the Ethernet, plug
Yeah.
right in.
Okay,
And it's pretty random.
yeah,
The one
Yeah.
problem you have is that a lot of times, especially like right after, as the kids get out of school, they all glom onto the
there's,
network.
yeah, there's all sorts of
Kills
factors.
bandwidth.
Time of day, temperature and weather are factors, overall internet traffic.
Yeah, I think
Um,
in the evening now, video is like 60 or 70% of
Of bandwidth
the traffic.
usage, yeah.
And interesting,
Um,
when you do a test too, it decides which
server to go
server to
with.
go to. It
Yeah.
probably looks for the fastest one, it hooks
Right,
up to that.
yeah, it's supposed to be finding the fastest server based on
I did a
So-
quick experiment, I turned my VPN off and then back on, and it was noticeable difference.
Oh, yeah, absolutely, yeah. Yeah, so just keep in mind though, if you do the tests over Wi-Fi, it's also possible that if there's something impacting your Wi-Fi speed, like interference, that would hurt your bandwidth. So, just keep that in mind. But yes, absolutely, internet bandwidth varies constantly. The Eero Wi-Fi system automatically does a bandwidth test every day.
Mhm.
And if I look at my Eero for home, and I look at the speed, the last test that it did was the 26th. It was testing 220 megabits down, 12 up. Oh, and now it just refreshed and said on the 28th, yesterday, it tested at 134 down, 12 up. And where's the rest of there's the timeline.
At my house, I'm getting 181 down, 10 up.
Say it again?
On my Arrow,
Yeah,
I'm getting 181 down and 10 up.
on Comcast?
Cox, actually.
Cox,
On Comcast, I get 120 down and 6 up on my arrows.
yeah.
My Euro is 228 down, 12 up.
Stop it.
Maybe.
So like her.
So I wasn't on the Wi-Fi with my phone, so it didn't load the history. Do you have the history of that one? You know, timeline. Yeah, so Rick's internet speed on his Eero has varied from 228, 178, 314, 327, 269, 285, 168. One day it was down to 31, 141, 324. Shows you how it's just all over the place.
But the times it was under 150 were all at 9:30 at night. This is doing it at 9:25 every night.
Which is a high bandwidth usage.
But that's also where the 327 was. So,
All right, so any other things that people want to talk about, know about? Yeah,
I brought an Osmo 3,
yeah,
which if you haven't seen it, it's a dolly, if you will, or gimbal for your iPhone. And the beauty to it is it runs with an app on the iPhone, has its own power built into it, and it will smartly track your subject. So if you're trying to do some videoing, you can literally set this and on your phone, you just draw a little square around the person and you just sit like this. It moves to track wherever they're going, whatever speed they're at. If you wanted to change the position of the picture, you can move as well, or let the picture move as it's going and give you a wider expanse of wherever you're covering. It'll also switch and use the best camera from the back as a selfie for you. And the whole thing just spins around and turns the thing back. It's really an incredible deal. It's $112.
Right, that's great.
This is from the guys that do the DJI drones. So the same stuff that's in the drone that drives their camera and their gimbaling system is built into this little deal. And all you do is just fold it up, put it back.
What's the name of it?
Osmo 3, OSMO 3 from DJI. My Christmas gift. Really terrific.
Is that on your list, Rick?
So that
It was on my list,
shows
yeah.
it in use.
You should be using
Really
it.
old for the
It's a pretty cool thing. I'll play the demo video for a little bit.
Your volume is off.
Yeah, I figure don't need the sound. It's not quite slap the phone in there and go like they depict it. As Rick and I found out, you gotta get the phone centered in the grip
Sure.
just right so that the balance is correct. So you're looking at about 5 minutes worth of fidgeting with the phone before you're ready to rock and roll. But once you get it balanced, it really is rock and roll.
Notice a lot of the ads get real creative, music and dancing.
Oh yeah. So you double click on that and it switches to the selfie camera.
It will also take stills while you're taking video
Huh.
with a trigger on your hand. So if you see something you like it as you're watching it, you just take a shot of it at the same time. I wanted to show us the product of what it's doing.
Oh, but why when we can show hipsters doing
Oh, yeah.
hipster things?
Yeah. Very
Turn the
good.
phone off.
Yeah, that's another nice feature, is being able to, with one finger, your thumb actually, change it from landscape to portrait.
There's the tracking feature they were showing just then. That's,
Go to, are you on YouTube?
no, that's Osmo's site, or
Oh, no,
DJI's
just
site.
go to YouTube and put in Osmo 3. There are 2 or 3 tutorial ones that actually show you with a person doing it, and then they show the video of what comes out. It's just the smoothest video I've ever seen.
And that's the same thing.
You got that instead of a one-wheel, Rick?
Yeah,
So this gives you a sense for the kind of video that it shoots. Let's skip ahead. See how it was moving the phone around?
I wonder if Sam Mendes used that for when he did his 1917 movies.
One of the series coming to Apple TV Plus is going to be shot on iPhone. All shot on iPhone.
Smart. The 1917 movie is done as like, almost like a one shot, very little editing.
Yeah,
It's really different, it's very interesting to watch.
cool.
I saw previews of that.
Questions? Things people want to talk about? Chris?
Going back to USB-C,
Yeah.
I'm starting to think about a new desktop.
Yeah.
Should I be thinking about new drives for Time Machine?
No, I wouldn't worry about it because the speed of your time machine drive is not a big deal. So what if it takes a little while to back up?
Doing it at night anyway.
It might actually be a better thing that it's lower bandwidth, that the processor, the faster the bandwidth is, the time machine might be like, oh, hey, I gotta keep up with that. If it's throttling it, might keep the bandwidth usage down, the processor usage down. Won't swear to that, but can't hurt. But I wouldn't worry about that, at least as far as backup drives go. So,
Speaking of that, what I've been doing is I have multiple portable drives I use for Time Machine, and then every so often I'll turn off I'll back up to the cloud, and then I'll turn that feature off. Is that bad to do or good to do?
On your Mac,
Yeah.
you're turning off cloud off?
Well, because rather than just have it automatically go to the cloud, I'm backing up to a physical hard drive. Just
Well,
thinking
Macs
out-
don't back up, Macs
I'm
don't
sorry,
back up
I don't
to,
mean the Mac, I mean my iDevices. My
Okay.
iPod, my iPhone.
yeah,
Some backups will be to the cloud, then I'll turn that feature off and back it up again.
back it up to the computer. That's fine, yeah, covering your butt, you've got a local backup and,
As long, well, I guess the other thing too is that you don't back up everything on your iDevice.
yeah, you can't control what gets backed up,
Yeah.
so. So I brought a whole bunch of adapters and stuff in, so I should talk about them since I brought them in. We used to have this projector is connected right now through connector that you're probably all pretty familiar with, that preceded USB-C and Thunderbolt 3. That's Thunderbolt 2 and 1. So that's a Thunderbolt connector, which is also AKA mini DisplayPort. They're not 100% interchangeable. There were some Macs in the early days that were only mini DisplayPort that didn't do Thunderbolt, but pretty much all Macs of recent generation are. That one port is multifunction, does both Thunderbolt for data and mini DisplayPort for video. So, mini DisplayPort, Apple offered all sorts of adapters, VGA, DVI monitor connectors. This is an Ethernet connector for wired network connection that I had in my bag. HDMI is a possibility. And this is something that is useful, that I've heard they use at the Apple Store a lot for helping people with troubleshooting things. This is the USB-C digital AV multi-port adapter, big mouthful name for this thing. This is like $50-$60 from Apple.
Yeah, is that the HDMI? Or-
Yeah,
That's
it's
the
got
HDMI
power
with the
input port,
USB.
HDMI, and USB 3.
Is that true?
Yeah, I've heard they use this for things like sometimes when somebody has they're buying a new phone and they have a lot of photos that they want to transfer from their old phone to their new phone, but they don't want to use iCloud Photo Library. One of the genius people will whip out one of these and plug the old phone into the new phone, and the old phone shows up as a camera to the new phone, and then you tell you want to import the photos, and it sucks it in at USB 3 speed. So that adapter allows you to do that with an iPhone.
By the way, Chris,
Yeah.
this is an adapter I picked up a while back. This is a.
Oh yeah, please.
So this is a video. It's actually a USB-C to multiple video output. Now, you can only use one at a time, but this has VGA, DisplayPort, HDMI, and DVI. So basically, I can connect up to any video output that I need.
Cool.
And I love that. That's good.
Yeah.
I also have a USB to Ethernet and three USB 3
Yeah,
adapter,
yeah.
which I like. Yeah.
Yeah.
But one of my favorites is just the simple USB-C to Ethernet from Insignia, which is Best Buy, because that thing has lights on it. So when you plug
Network
something in,
activity lights.
you can see what's going
Imagine
on.
that.
Oh, imagine, yeah. I know. But yeah, and this thing was cheap. This thing was only like about $30, $35.
Yeah, that's a good brand too.
Yeah, and it's SIIG.
Let's see, these are older, I'm not gonna bother with those. Some of these adapters I got in this bag are actually 30-pin dock connectors, so that's why I'm not bothering to talk about those. I should pretty much just throw those out at this point, but I can't bring myself to throw it in.
The minute you do that, someone's gonna have one that you're gonna need.
Exactly. That's exactly right.
Murphy's Law.
You gotta charge your iPod.
What else did I bring? So this is kind of old news, but I'll mention it since I've got this optical drive handy. And Rick mentioned the Apple Superdrive earlier. This is a portable CD, DVD player drive and burner. There are lots of these out there. LG and Samsung ones tend to be Mac compatible. And they connect via USB, and they let you use CDs and DVDs with Macs, because there is not a single Mac shipped in the last, I think it's 3 years now, that has an optical drive. So for some of us, that's not an issue, we don't care. For some of us, that's a big deal. But with a drive like this, for about $40, you can add back the ability to access optical discs to your Mac. And I've actually set up a lot of people with these that the optical drive in their Mac has worn out, because the optical drives don't last. And it's costs a lot of labor to get inside of the Mac to replace the optical drive. So it's what's that? Run out of pad? No, and inside of a Mac. Oh, no, it won't work. I don't think there's drivers in iOS for that. Although now, in iOS 13, with iPads and phones, you can access storage devices like flash drives and hard drives. Yeah. So you can plug a flash drive into an iPad now. But you need, to do that, you would need
Lightning too.
either a flash drive that's got a lightning connector on it, or USB-C if you have an iPad Pro. Or the USB-C to, well, that's USB-C, not
Yeah, but
lightning.
But you could put the, you put the thumb drive in there.
Yeah.
Right, but I was talking about to do it with an iPhone or iPad.
Oh,
Yeah,
have a lightning.
So you would
Need a lightning to.
you'd need one of these to do
Yeah.
this.
The other thing is too, is that if
Yeah.
you're using a flash drive and you have the need for both,
Yeah.
this is a SanDisk one. It has a USB-A on one end,
And the C on the other.
and you slide it the other way, and it's a USB-C. So this is great. I love it. This has actually become very useful. As more customers get the thing. The only thing I will say about this thing though is it does get warm when you start transferring a lot of stuff to it. This 64 gigs, but I've actually seen it slow down because it's gotten warm.
Yeah.
I have a 128 gig Extreme one.
Yeah.
That's 3.1, and that thing is like, it's almost like an SSD.
Yeah.
I mean, it's wonderful.
So there's
Yeah.
there's the one that Jay's talking about. And so we're talking about flash drives that work with iPhone and iPad.
Yes.
Because as he said, that's got USB-C connector on,
Right.
no, lightning on one side.
This is USB-C on one side
USB-C on
and
one side,
USB-A
on the other.
Right.
And Jay was mentioning that he's got SanDisk Extreme flash drive,
Yeah.
right, just like that.
Yeah. Mhm.
Yep.
Yeah.
This is still
Very
got
fast.
USB-A connector on this
Yeah.
one. But this is like 128 gig. This is the SanDisk Extreme flash drives are really fast.
And they stay cool. You can move a lot of stuff out of them very quickly. They don't overheat.
Yeah, they do get toasty though.
Oh yes, but they don't slow down. I've noticed.
For my on-the-road drive, for my consulting work, I've, over the years, gone from what was probably 150 megabyte hard drive when I first started my consulting business to a 500 megabyte hard drive to 1 gig hard drive to a 2 gig hard drive and up and up and up. And for the longest time, I was on a 1 terabyte drive. And then, because the reason being, for my work, I like to hold on to a lot of installers, including ones going way back into history, so that when somebody comes out to me and says, can you do blah,
I'm
I
running
can
a
say,
lion.
yes, I can handle any situation. So anyways, I bought this little portable drive, 2 terabytes. At Christmas, I bought this on Black Friday pricing. 2 terabytes in that little thing, and it's wicked fast.
Amazon?
No, it was
Best Buy?
B&H. Yeah.
And if you believe CES, by September, in that same form factor will be 8 terabytes.
8 terabytes.
From
Cool.
SanDisk.
Nice. But the important thing to remember with all of these is don't forget to back up, because some people think the SSD, because it doesn't have moving parts, won't fail. It does fail. I can't give you what the failure rate is compared to standard hard drives, but what I can tell you is that when SSD goes, it just goes.
It's gone.
It's on one day, it's off the next. There's no
The same thing
warning.
with a flash drive.
Yeah.
And I've
So,
had flash drives die on these, and it's just like, oh, it's working today. You plug it in the next time, it's like, no, there ain't nothing there. Sorry, dude.
yeah. So you gotta have a backup, because you're not gonna get warning signs if you have important data on
Doesn't
that
make any noise.
flash drive or SSD.
Doesn't whistle.
It doesn't
Yeah.
click.
It doesn't click. It doesn't get slower.
Disappear.
Doesn't
It
even
just
give you the-
disappears.
It doesn't even give you the frowny face.
Right.
Remember that?
And if you don't know, there's no startup chime on Macs anymore, by the way. Apple's been removing it from all the Macs. It started with the MacBook 12-inch, and it's gone on down.
That's so
The line.
reassuring.
It's first of all, it was part of the personality of the platform that it's frustrating that it's gone. But for a tech like me, troubleshooting is made more difficult by the fact that you can't tell where the computer is in its startup sequence. But anyways, back to what we're talking about. So this is a Amazon Basics equivalent of the Apple USB-C charging cable that comes with an Apple laptop nowadays. The difference is the Apple one is only, I don't know, 4 feet long maybe. This Amazon one is 6 feet. So with all my iOS, my Lightning cables to charge my iPhones and iPads, I've always gotten longer cables. That's my advice to people all the time. Get yourself a longer charging cable. Rick has one right here.
Well, and the other thing is, Amazon has now got both a fastener for the cable itself, and the cable is knitted on the outside. Braided, whatever that is.
So it's more durable.
But I have never had any of those cables fail on me at all.
Yep.
I've had a couple of the Amazon ones, the certified ones, that like you just had.
Yeah.
I think I bought a package of 4, and I think I've gone through 2 of them. The contacts seem to
Wear out.
burn or something
Yeah.
because of power.
Yeah,
That's why I went to
have had
these.
that happen, yeah.
These are more, they're more expensive, but still, it's maybe $4 or $5 versus 2.
Yeah.
It's
Just
worth
make sure
every
you look
penny.
for a cable that says it's MFI, meaning made for iPhone, and made for iPad, certified. But get yourself a charging cable that's longer than the one that comes in the box with the phone or the iPad, because it makes your life a lot easier instead of you having to
Yep.
bend over near the outlet wherever you may be charging, make your life easier. Thank you. Got a few more things here.
You've done this a few times.
This is, well, this is just a black version of that USB-C to USB-A adapter that Rick had. Nothing new there.
Here's one.
What's that? Oh, yes, so there's, some of you might have seen these out in the market. They take from USB power source, a USB charger, and allow you to charge either a device with a USB micro, like Samsung phones have, or Lightning, like Apple devices have, or USB mini, which things like, what's that?
Droid, I think.
Yeah, Droid. You can only use one at a time, but
Yeah.
I've seen something like that, but
Yeah.
it's designed with a mag charger for your watch
yeah.
and lightning cables for, and it supposedly says you can charge two things at the same time. But
No.
I'm sure if
Yeah.
you're dividing the current through those things, it takes a lot longer.
Yeah, your devices are supposed to be smartly talking to the charger, so you really shouldn't split the charging connection. You should only use one at a time.
Oh, speaking of magnetic, there is a USB-C with a magnetic coupler.
Yeah.
For braking, you know.
Similar to Magsafe. Yeah, I'll
Right.
bring that up on the screen. That's good. Because that's a big drawback to USB-C, unfortunately. That's a great point. Rick just handed me a USB charger for a car. If you didn't know those exist, they exist. You can put that in your power outlet in the car and get juice to charge your phone. And frequently these put out more amperage than the built-in port in your car, so your phone will charge quicker.
Quicker.
Yeah.
Get
There,
one with two built in.
yeah, there are a lot of them that have two,
Yeah.
and they can actually charge two phones at a decent rate at the same time. Rick's got a great little satchel here that holds, he's got about a dozen connectors and cables in it there.
Watch.
Yeah, watch charger. And lightning,
Any donuts in there?
car
Nope.
charger,
One of everything.
yeah.
No way.
So, what I wanted to mention briefly, which is a really good point, is the fact that, so for years we had, with Macs, with the charger, we had the Magsafe Connector. Let me pull it up. We had this right here.
Yep.
And of course, the awesome thing about it is somebody bumps the cord and, oh, gosh darn, isn't that too bad? But your $1,500 laptop does not go crashing to the floor. Well, Apple decided to do away with Magsafe because, gosh, we can't have that garish connector there when
It's a lot of
we
real
could
estate.
use, it's a lot of real estate. We could just have USB-C do that instead. So they did away with Magsafe, and of course, USB-C, which replaced it on the laptops, goes into a port, and if somebody trips on the cable, there goes your laptop. So Jay has, there you go.
Is that the old one or?
No, this is a USB-C
Something new.
adapter. And basically there's got a little connector, plugs in here, and then you have this nice little cable, which is braided, and it just clicks right on there. So this is a MagSafe
Yeah.
unit.
So there's something, there's something already attached to it.
Yeah, there's a little,
You can barely see it from here. Yeah. All right. I got it. This is part of
yep,
the-
there's a little,
Yeah.
unit there that has a bunch of connections for power. Yep, there we go, that's it.
There's all sorts of brands.
There's and half of them are the same, but this one is just, it's great. And this has worked out for me, has been just great. I've had no issues with the power transfer rate on it. And, I've had that case where something's happening, bingo, it comes off. Whereas USB-C will let go eventually. But I find this a much better solution for me.
Why don't you bring it over here and we'll show people even closer. How many times do I have to tell you to trust it? I guess because of the camera, it doesn't want to.
So the magnetic receptor plugs into the USB-C
Yes, correct.
and stays on the computer all.
Right. Mm-hmm.
So if I'm gonna use my little one,
Mm-hmm.
I could put that
In there,
on here.
correct.
Okay,
Yep.
that'd be good.
And it connects and then it just pops free.
How much is it? $20?
$16.99.
Yeah, they're really cheap.
That's with a cord too. Of course, that cord you can't lose.
Here we go.
Yeah,
Or you have to take the
the
adapter
deal,
off.
adapter off, yeah.
So, there's a little adapter here. Right there. That plugs into the USB-C, and then the other end, and it just connects on.
Oh, that's slick.
I like that.
Pop.
And you just leave
I leave that piece in there.
that piece in the
Yeah.
laptop all the time.
Yep. And
So-
the thing,
This part right here stays in there.
yep. And so it's about that deep,
Yeah.
about that deep. I'm not gonna pull it out, but
No, we can see from the top. It's okay.
it's tough to get
We
out.
can see it. You don't have to pull it out.
Yeah, but you can see it does not stick out a lot.
It's a little pimple.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And the thing I like about this one, which is similar to the one they were showing on the screen, is the piece on here is small, so you can get other devices, other cables to
Into
plug into the other
neighboring port.
neighboring port. There are a number of them that are very wide.
Hmm.
So, as you can see, there's plenty of room.
Mm-hmm.
Mhm.
Cool.
Yeah, and actually I bought two of the cables, so.
Thank you, Jake.
Oh, was that the one we were looking at here from Amazon?
This one is actually a Magneto, Magnitto, which at the time I was looking for, there was another brand I tried, and it was not good. This one has turned out, the cable was very stiff, this is a good flexible cable, which I like.
And, was it Amazon?
Yes.
Different spelling.
Let me see if I can get it.
There's lots of them. Magneto's not showing up though. So anyways, that's a good thing to invest in, because if somebody hooks their foot on your charger cable, your laptop won't go crashing on the floor.
Okay, the website is magnitocable.com, and it's MAGNITTO cable.com.
It's on Amazon.
TTO,
MITTO.
like Magnet 2 cable.
Magneto. Apparently they have the new one that's both, this is a charge only, and apparently they now have, normal.
I would say that was Magneto.
Was this it, Jay, right
I
here?
thought he said, there's an
Yeah,
ITTO.
Change the E to
ITTO.
There you
There you go.
Uh-huh. There you go. They've got a new design
Yeah, there's a new design.
with a rotating connector.
Well, that's, yeah. And that's actually double-ended, I guess. The one on the far right, if you go back, go to the, go to
No,
the-
just go a little further down.
Go where it says store,
Yep.
go to magnetic cables. And so the one that I bought is the
Yeah.
one on the right,
Yep.
which is rated at it's 6 feet long and rated at 87 watts.
87 watts, that's it, reversible.
And the cable's braided.
Yes.
Cool. One more thing I want to talk about is, some of you may not care, but of course the latest iPhones don't have a headphone jack. If you didn't know, if you do care about wired headphones, if you didn't know, there is this adapter from Apple that's $10 that lets you connect.
And if you have had an older one that also had lightning, like a previous generation, it's used to, you don't need more.
Yeah. But I don't know if Apple for a while lowered the price on this to $8 as a concession of the fact that they knew they were pissing off a lot of people.
You lower the price.
Yeah.
Yes,
They lowered the price to 8?
yeah. But now it's back up to 10.
Oh. You know, it's easy to lose too.
One more thing.
Yeah.
There's one, I just picked up, my nephew wanted for his birthday, AirPods, but he wanted black ones. So the fact is that you can't, obviously Apple doesn't make them. You can buy ones that a third party has taken them and painted them, colored them. However, I found, not a skin.
Because there are skins.
Yes, there are plenty of skins out there, but no, they actually make, if you put in black AirPods, in there. No, they're, okay,
Oh,
so
look
you
at
got
that.
all these companies that make these, they're all basically the same, but this one here, I'm not joking, it's $60. Now, these have been reviewed, these have actually been reviewed, they're not as good as Apple's, but the scary part about it is, they pair identically the same. You open it up, you push the button, it pairs. On the iPhone, it just pops up, it comes on, and everything. And so I actually got it on sale. But I gotta tell you something though, these all come directly from China. So you order it, you're looking at several weeks before they get shipped to you. They're not, they're not usually a stock item. Just as a,
So you mean, it's not just the case, it's the whole thing?
yeah, this one, for instance, is a knockoff of Apple's AirPod Pros.
Right.
So if we take a look at my AirPod Pro, and you compare it, it's actually, yeah. But it's a complete ripoff. It's a complete knockoff of it. But it does pair it does wireless charging, does all that, but it's $80. But it does not sound as good. This is not an Apple product.
And it doesn't have noise cancellation.
Doesn't have noise cancellation, yeah.
No, because there's room on the chip to gather a lot of technical data from the US and ship it back to them over there.
Or something like that, yeah. But the thing is they are selling these knockoff brands. And just be warned, they do work. They're not great. I mean, honestly, I love these AirPod Pros. These things are just phenomenal. I got these a little bit off on a sale.
Same here.
But the thing I love about these actually is I can put these in and I could listen to things. But Apple's has what's called transparency mode, which is enabled right now. So it's not in noise canceling mode, which means I can hear what's going on around me.
So Jay can hear me say your fly's down.
So those are the,
Okay.
those are the noise canceling ones?
Yeah, they are. So if I press and hold, now it's in noise canceling. I can't hear you.
Now, does that have the charging case that
It's a
lay
wireless
flat
charging
on it?
case, yes. So you can charge it with like the AirPod 2s. You can charge it with a cable or just park
set
it
it
on a
on.
wireless charging case. And that's the other thing is I'm looking for is a good charging pad that will do multiple devices.
I was infuriated by the fact that the case for the AirPods is like an eel. and you can't set them down anywhere without it wanting to slide.
Oh, yes. so you
Especially if you set that sucker down in your car and you take a
got-
corner.
It's gone.
Under the seat it goes. Ah! And so I got a rubberized case
With a,
on Amazon for under $15, maybe under $10, in your choice of color. That if you drop it, it cushions it, and it's grippy,
Mhm.
and it doesn't slide right off a surface. And it's got a little carabiner.
yeah.
So
Quartz has
just
all
like
those too.
I suggest you have a case on your iPhone, you
Mhm.
might want to think about having a case on
I
your.
haven't found one, I didn't
on your
find one,
AirPods.
which one's it?
I don't think it even has a brand name.
Yeah, okay.
I thought about getting a brand name one like Spec,
Mhm.
but the wait period was longer
Yeah.
than I wanted to wait, so I went with
Yeah.
the,
I keep them in my pocket, so it's, for me, it's a booth, you know.
yeah.
Most of the time.
So, anyways, yeah, the AirPods Pro are pretty cool. All right, so we're gonna have to wrap up because we're gonna kick us out of the library soon. So, questions, things left unspoken? Yes?
One last thing, we were talking about dual-ended, memory space. I just started thinking, I've got a 16 gig iPad here, I'm trying to just let it go as long as I can, and now I'm finding I've got a lot